Mio is the eldest daughter born in one of the families, named Simori. She lost her mother shortly after she was born, and her father did not hesitate to marry his former lover, being that her parents' marriage is a political one. Mio's father soon gives birth to a child, Kaya, with the ability to see aliens, and Mio is relegated to act as a common maid in her father's household. When Mio comes of age, her family gives her out in marriage to Kyoka Kudo of the Jiutang family. Preparations are in top gear for Kaya's engagement. When Mr. Kuji sees Mio, he questions why she's dressed up and carrying her bags with her. He feels sorry for her, that he is incapable of doing anything for her, but Mio thinks otherwise. She hopes she will finally be happy after getting married. Kaya soon interrupts their discussions as she drags Mr. Kuji, her fiancé, with her. Mio continues on her path. Her stepmother and sister gossip about the ruthless man Mio is to marry, and how several young ladies from prominent families have run away because of how ruthless he is. Mio's stepmother hopes she disappears from this world like her mother did. Mio arrives at her new home. She makes her way into her husband's home. Kudo Kyoka, who is from a famous family and the head of the house, is 27 years old. As she makes her way in, she wonders the kind of man he might be, based on what has been going around town about him. She finally arrives at the inner house. She greets her husband, who ignores her for a while before informing her that she must do whatever he says, even if he asks her to stop breathing. He notices that she accepts his commands without any hint of refusal, so he turns and continues what he's doing. Mio wakes up dreaming of her mother, which is beginning to feel like a norm lately. She hurries out of the bed to the kitchen like she always does in her father's house. Yuri, who is like a mother to Kyoka, gets frightened seeing Mio in the kitchen, but she realizes that the young mistress is being apologetic for stepping into the kitchen. She calms her down and suggests they work together to get things done before the young master wakes up. After the meals are ready, Yuri and Mio serve Kyoka his breakfast, but he's insistent on Mio tasting the food. However, Mio, whose self-confidence has been battered by her family, feels she's not supposed to have a taste of his meal. She remains silent and unable to utter a word, which gives Kyoka the impression that she must have poisoned the food. He walks away in irritation, leaving the both of them on their knees. At the Anti-Grotesqueries Special Unit, where Kyoka's office is located, his assistant and friend, Gozo, bring a list of applicants for the new intakes, which he is to select at least 5. He notices Kyoka's mood and suspects it either has something to do with his new fiancée, or Yuri must have scolded him. He decides to make fun of him just to get on his nerves. As they are walking down the facility, Kyoka shows Gozo a bird he picked up in the morning when he was on patrol. Unfortunately, no one seems to know what it is, even after taking it to some of their colleagues to check out. They place the object on a table and observe it when it explodes. Thankfully, Kyoka curtails the incident. Kyoka heads straight for the Army General Staff headquarters to meet with the Director General, Sudo Tsugiji, and the Minister of the Imperial Household, Grand Steward Kamamura Norio. He shows Lord Sudo the bird, which has changed form after the explosion. Fortunately, Kamamura recognizes it as the insect who sleeps in the burial grounds. They are known to be rebellious after experiencing an agonizing end of life, and they hold deep hatred for the physical world. He informs them of the prediction that the insect will reappear in the capital city. After listening to all Kamamura said, Kyoka thinks the insect didn't just reappear, but someone must have exposed the burial grounds. They deliberate on the issue, and Lord Sudo reveals that they don't even have enough manpower to subdue these insects if they should all get released. Kyoka offers help from the Anti-Grotesqueries Special Unit to handle the insects in the capital city. In the course of their discussions, Mr. Tsurugi Arata, from the old trading company, Tsurugi Trading, joins them. Kamamura introduces the young president to the others. He informs them that they will need Arata's negotiating skills, even though he has no special gift like the rest of them. Later in the evening, Kyoka arrives home, and Mio is the first to welcome him back with apologies for the incident that happened in the morning. He ignores her and heads inside, but he gets drawn by her continuous pleas. Taking a second look at her, he realizes that her hands are covered in cracks, and her kimono is too worn out to be called old, which is quite unusual for someone from a prominent family. He thinks that she's indeed odd and different from the previous girls, just like Yuri mentioned to him. He gets up and excuses himself to go take his bath. Mio follows him to the washroom and watches in awe as he uses his gift to heat the bathing water. She hasn't seen something like that before. He questions why she's always quick to apologize at the slightest given opportunity, and informs her that he wasn't angry with her in the morning. He was only being cautious. He tells her to prepare breakfast tomorrow and threatens to deal with her if she poisons him. He takes a look at her for a second and hands a bag of herbs to her. so she can add it to his water. While she soaks the herbs in the bath water, Mio starts feeling bad about not having any gift despite being a member of the Simori family. She believes she's not good enough for her lord, and when he finds that out, he might kick her out right away. The next day, Mio wakes up with another scary dream. She gets up and heads to the kitchen almost immediately as it's morning already. She recalls when she was in her father's house. She didn't have the leisure of eating unless she prepared the meal by herself. Shortly after, she serves the meal to Kyoka accompanied by Yuri. He tells them to eat as well. When he tastes the meal, it turns out to be surprisingly delicious, so he commends Mio for the delicious meal. She instantly starts crying, leaving them to wonder what the problem might be. However, it's the first time anyone is praising her food, and now she's so overwhelmed with joy that she can't help but shed tears. Kyoka asks her to stop apologizing while he continues enjoying his meal. On his way out of the house, he asks Yuri to report to him details about Mio's routine when he gets back home, because he intends to investigate the Simori family from outside. The Tatsuishi family inherited the gift of manipulating objects. They plan to form a marriage with the Simori, who have the gift of controlling the wind. At the Simori house, preparations for Kaya's wedding are ongoing. Meanwhile, the heads of both households are in a meeting, and the Tatsuishi family is not happy. The reason is because they had an initial agreement to have Mio married to their eldest son, while Kaya married Kuji. At work, Kyoka gets some informants to fetch him information about Mio's family. He informs Gozo that Mio has no gift, and that's why her family maltreated her. He's surprised to find out that Yuzuba Sumi is Mio's birth mother. He pulls Gozo aside to confirm the report because the Yuzuba family has gone into hiding for a long time now. Tsuruki, who is listening to them, reveals that the Yuzuba family has the gift to interfere with people's minds. Kyoka walks over to find out what he knows about this Yuzuba family. Tsuruki is well-traveled, and he has heard lots of things. He explains the family's gift to Kyoka. But then, he's surprised that Kyoka, who is rumored to be ice-cold to women, is nursing emotional interest in his fiancée. Getting back home, Yuri briefs Kyoka on Mio's activities before he enters the main house. He sees Mio silently walking around. He calls her and asks her to join him on his next day off, so they can look around town together, because she's been indoors ever since she came. Mio is dazzled because she was never allowed to step out of the Simori house, hence, she doesn't know anything about the city. She hopes she won't do anything to embarrass her lord. The following day, Yuri prepares to touch up Mio's face when she notices that the cracks on her hands have reduced greatly. Mio reveals that it must have been the herbs Kyoka told her to put in his bath water every day. Yuri laughs because the young master has always disliked herbal baths since he was a child. Mio realizes that he did that for her, and she follows Yuri's instructions as she applies makeup on her face. A few minutes later, she walks fast towards Kyoka, who is waiting for her. She thanked him severally for waiting for her. He takes her to a clothes store, and Mio can't help but feel nostalgic as she stares at a kimono that reminds her of a similar kimono owned by her mother. A while later, they visit a traditional restaurant, and as they eat, Kyoka asks questions about her mother. All the while, Mio has her head bowed as she speaks to him. He shares how his mother was never present in his childhood and Yuri was the one who raised him and his sister. Mio accidentally confesses that they are alike when it comes to knowing what it feels like to have a mother. She quickly comes to her senses and starts apologizing for making such a comparison. He asks her to raise her head and stop feeling small because it will make him happy if she feels free to speak her mind. She feels unworthy to raise her head, however. She can't help but wish to spend more time with this man. She slowly lifts her head until she can see him face to face. After leaving the restaurant, they take a walk around the streets, and he asks more about her. He tries to find out if she's been sleeping well lately. Mr. Tsuruki walks by and spots the couple. He smiles and continues on his way. The next day, Kyoka visits the emperor in his sick chambers where he's lying. He pays his respect before meeting Takahito, the heir to the throne who has been his playmate since he was a child. He updates the prince about the progress made with the insects so far. The worried prince decides to share his incomplete revelation with his friend. He knows for certain that his father's demise is imminent, and he asks Kyoka to promise him that he won't perish. Though the emperor is on his sick bed, he still gets visions and revelations of the future. He urges Kyoka to take the anti-grotesquerie special unit and act as a shield to protect the people, or else they will suffer. Another day, Mio steps out with Yuri into town to purchase some ingredients. She's been thinking about how to repay Kyoka for taking her into town, so she purchases some colorful threads. She looks at them smiling as she thinks of what to do with it. Her sister's voice suddenly brings her out of her reverie. Kaya is surprised to see her still alive. Miyo's heart begins to palpitate faster as Kaya walks towards her. She tries to control her tears and shivers as Kaya makes derogatory remarks to her for not having a gift. She bows her head apologizing to her sister, who simply walks away. Miyo is about to hit the floor when Mr. Tsuruki quickly helps her up. He assists her to have a seat, and then assures her that the nightmare will soon be over. Yuri spots them from afar, so she quickly comes running. But before she can thank Mr. Tsuruki, he already vanishes. Kyoka pays a visit to the Simori home. He speaks with Miyo's parents and reveals his reluctance to give them any kind of compensation because, for people like them, marriage is simply a thing of political interest. However, he offers to pay them a lot of money if they sincerely apologize to Miyo. Kaya, who is angry with Kuji for supporting Miyo, spots Kyoka on his way out, and she gushes over his beauty right before her fiancé. Later that night, Kyoka is passing by when he hears Miyo whimpering. He tries to get her to respond to no avail, so he enters her room and finds her crying and muttering apologies while sleeping. He touches her cold palms and assures her that her worries will soon be over. Suddenly, a bright light flashes, causing him to turn sharply. The next day, Yuri comes to inform Miyo of her visitor. She steps out and is surprised to see Hana, a maid who got fired for pleading with her stepmother not to lock her up when she was still a little girl. Hana sees that Miyo is finally getting the happiness she deserves, and she falls to her knees apologizing for not being present for her young miss during her hard times. The both of them cry out their eyes. Hana reveals that she was able to locate Miyo only because she heard the voice of Kyoka's men coming out from a magical paper, and shortly after, Kyoka comes to pick her up. She advises Miyo to wipe her tears away as her fiancé is a good man. Later, Miyo runs to confess to Kyoka that she has no gifts. She works as a servant in her parents' house, and she's uneducated, so she can't do anything a prominent family's daughter can do. She apologizes for not telling him the truth earlier, and then shows him the token she made out of her apologetic heart. Kyoka gets up from his seat after listening to all she has to say. He lifts her head and informs her that it'll be problematic if he sends her away. However, he intends to formally engage her after some time. She is dazed hearing him say he wants to continue having her around. He receives the band she made for him, and she follows his instructions to help him tie his hair with it. Her face lights up with smiles as he turns around for her to tie his hair. He informs her that he won't be returning home often for a few days, as he has some work to do. Her happiness could not allow her to even speak audibly as she smiled shyly. At the palace, the prince comes to visit his sick father, and the emperor asks him to come closer. He apologizes to his son for making him carry the burden of the country ever since he was a child. He speaks in parables to the young prince, who tries to make sense of every word his father is saying. The following day, Kyoka pays a visit to some citizens who have been infected by the insects and are exhibiting strange reactions. Later, he heads back to the office, and his subordinates are telling jokes about him. The moment they hear his voice, they quickly stand up, pretending that they are talking to Miyo. It happens that Miyo is around, and Kyoka quickly approaches her to find out why she's at his workplace. She reveals that she brought some food for him, as she thought he might be hungry. She shares the food with everyone and gives him his share. She approaches Gozo with food for him in appreciation for helping Hana reach her. They start talking about Kyoka, and she can't help but watch the way he plays with his colleagues. A few days later, Kyoka purchases tons of gifts for Miyo. Yuri, Hana, and Miyo gush over the beautiful accessories and textiles he got for her. Miyo's heart bubbles with happiness, knowing that he likes her. She exits the room to go check something outside the house, and almost as soon as she steps out, Yuri hears a loud thud outside. She quickly gets up to find out what's happening. Unfortunately, she sees a car speeding off and Miyo's shoes scattered on the floor. Yuri runs after the vehicle screaming Miyo's name. At the anti-grotesqueries department, Kyoka continues his research on Yuzuba. He feels she is somehow linked to what he felt the day he saw Miyo crying from her sleep. While discussing his thoughts with Gozo, a couple of officers come running into his office. He spots them coming upstairs and instantly suspects there's a reason for the uproar. He quickly grabs his sword and steps out to meet them halfway. Unfortunately, he meets Kuji, who brings the news of Miyo's disappearance. Miyo wakes up all tied up and gagged. She is struggling to free herself when her stepmother walks in. Her stepmother locks the door and beats her up because she feels humiliated by Kyoka and her hatred for Miyo's mother. Kaya orders Miyo to cancel her engagement to Kyoka. On the drive to the Simori's household, where Miyo is held hostage, Kuji reveals that the plot was between Kaya and his father because Kaya likes him and his father wants to get Yuzuba's bloodline. Upon arriving at the house, Kyoka sets the entrance on fire. He knows that no one will grant him entrance, so he needs to enter forcefully. He goes on a rampage as he takes down the head of the Tatsuishi family, while Kaya and her mother force Mio to drown her face in a pot of water. She thinks of giving up as usual, but she refuses to accept Kaya's proposal. Meanwhile, the fight between Kyoka and the heads of the Simori and Tatsuishi families gets intense. Kyoka overpowers them and locates Mio, who soon passes out. He picks her up and carries her with him. Kaya yells from behind him, suggesting she's a better option being that she has a gift, unlike Mio, who is useless to him. He angrily shuts her up, telling her that she's never an option for him. He orders the family heads to be taken to the headquarters as the whole house burns to the ground. At the headquarters, Mochizuki, who has come in contact with an infected person, walks unusually into the department, unknown to others that he's now infected. 5 days later, the Simori family moves to a private house in the countryside after their house gets destroyed by the fire, and the entire family is in total decline. The Tatsuishi family entrusted the eldest son as the new head of the family, which is currently under the management of the Kudo family. At Kyoka's residence, Yuri invites Mr. Tsuruki to their home in appreciation of what he did for Mio at the market. Mio also thanks him for coming to her rescue when Kyoka comes to join them. On his way out, Mr. Tsuruki reveals to Kyoka that he's the cause of Mio's injuries, and he has left her nightmares unattended. He further states that if he intends to save Mio, he will have to bring her to him, and suddenly he vanishes right before him. He realizes that his visitor is no ordinary person. Kyoka hurriedly gets into his vehicle. On getting to his office, Kyoka rummages through his things in search of the document containing Tsuruki's name, and he blames himself for not noticing that his surname is Sumi. Mochizuki comes to brief him, but he is so distraught that he doesn't notice that he is infected. Kyoka runs back home, realizing that he indeed sensed something was off when Mio came into their house. He runs into the house to find Mio having another nightmare. She suddenly wakes up and tries to run away, but he embraces her, promising he's with her. He wishes there was something he could do to make the nightmares stop. He takes Mio with him to Tsuruki's residence, hoping they work something out. He realizes that Tsuruki is using Yuzuba's gift to create illusions. Tsuruki ushers them to meet the elders of the Yuzuba family, and then introduces the duo to Mio and his grandfather. He further reveals that Tsuruki is the name they use outside, but his real name is Yuzuba Arata. The old man acknowledges that Mio looks a lot like his daughter Sumi. The grandfather reveals that no one is responsible for Mio's nightmare, but the Yuzuba's blood in her. Tsuruki adds that if she doesn't stay with them, the nightmares will end her after some time. But Mio pleads that she doesn't want to leave Kyoka's side. Tsuruki reveals that Kyoka is busy with the burial ground case, and he can't stop her nightmares. He informs him that he will be unable to make his cousin happy, and her own powers will end up slaying her. Kyoka also doesn't want to leave her behind, but after giving it a deep thought, he wants her to be happy and safe, and he's willing to do anything for that. She refuses to listen to his decision for her to stay back, but she can't disobey his orders, so she has to stay against her will. Mio spends the day crying and comforting herself with the comb Kyoka gifted her. Tsuruki walks into her room, bringing some Western clothes for her. He suggests they get married and reveals how he feels about her. He informs her that their bloodline is forbidden to be shared among other families. He answers Mio's questions by revealing that her mother married an outsider willingly in an attempt to save the Tsuruki trading company from financial trouble. Meanwhile, on Kyoka's way out, he receives a communication from Godo that the Imperial Household Army is attacking them. At the palace, the prince runs towards his father, who is in a critical condition. Unfortunately, the Emperor's history and thoughts have been absorbed. Kyoka arrives at the headquarters, yelling that all infected victims be sent to the basement dungeon for quarantine. Everywhere is in chaos as about half of the unit is infected, and the infected officers fight with the uninfected ones. He finds a way through the fights until he enters the main building. Gozo informs him that the Imperial Household Army suddenly attacked them, and according to the information he received from his familiar, all the insects are in their location, but no civilian has been hurt yet. Kyoka commands that they raise the barriers to prevent a single insect from going out, but Gozo reminds him that they will not be able to use their familiar. But Kyoka is willing to risk it just to protect the outside world from these dangerous insects. The situation soon gets out of hand, as the number of infected persons increases drastically, making Kyoka wonder how he will be able to handle the situation. In the next scene, Arata informs his grandfather about the situation at the headquarters, and that the Anti-Grotesqueries special unit won't be able to avoid annihilation. Unknown to them that Mio is listening, she suddenly questions what they are up to. Arata tries to explain, but she runs off. He tries to grab her, and she accidentally uses her powers to push him off, causing him to bleed from his eyes. Mio worries seeing how Arata looks injured, but her grandfather informs her not to worry as her Dreamweaver power just manifested. Ji explains that the power draws people into a dream or spiritual world, and she can as well enter that world. He further explains the things her powers can do, which is very unique, even to the Yuzuba family. Mio wonders how she suddenly develops a gift when she couldn't even see grotesqueries. The old man reveals that they can't see grotesqueries as well, and their powers aren't used to defeat the grotesqueries, but their abilities are to stop the other gifted people from going berserk. Mio pleads to go be with Kyoka, but Arata refuses. He informs her that it's the Emperor's order, and until they receive a contrary order, they can't let her go. The Emperor had a divine revelation that a Dreamweaver would appear, and he became afraid that all the members of the royal family would be displaced if the divine revelation was inferior to the Dreamweaver. The Emperor's physician reads the Emperor's will and reveals to the prince that the existence of Kudo Kyoka will become a big threat to the Emperor if he joins forces with the Sumori family. This is why he took advantage of the exposed burial grounds and ordered Kyoka to become a shield. The bereaved prince realizes that they had planned to slay Kyoka from the beginning, all in a bid to protect him. The ultimate plan is for the anti-grotesqueries special forces to slay each other inside the barrier, if there is no other way to slay only the insects. At the headquarters, Kyoka is faced with a difficult choice to slay the people he loves because they are infected and dangerous. There is no other way he can avoid the situation, and with pains in his heart, he fights the very men he is supposed to be captain over. Back in the king's chambers, the prince spots the mark on the physician's wrist as he injects the emperor with poison. It suddenly dawned on him that there had been a conspiracy. The physician was the one who exposed the burial grounds. Over at the Yuzuba household, Arata reveals that one of their rules is that whenever a Dreamweaver appears, a chosen member of the family will risk their life to protect them. Hence, he won't let her go because she's now his duty for the rest of his life. Mio struggles to break free from him. She doesn't care if she perishes, but she needs to be of help to Kyoka, even if she's unable to control her powers. She gets up and runs off to the headquarters immediately. Kyoka runs to prevent Goto from ending him, but he is surprised to find out that Goto has been infected as well, which is why he intends to fall out of the window instead of fighting his captain. Mio uses her gifts to enter through the barrier and tells Kyoka how to eliminate the insects without hurting the people he loves. She meets with her mother in the spiritual world. Mio readily gives up herself to save the man she loves. Thankfully, Arata comes to help her immediately after he realizes that she's losing consciousness. Hours later, the chaos ceases, and the soldiers are back to their normal selves. Kyoka runs to meet up with Mio, who confesses that she wants to be by his side. He meets with the prince after the turmoil has been contained, and informs him that Sumi sealed Mio's powers because she knew her daughter had the Dreamweaver gift. He's glad that at least one person loved Mio because he completely understands that her mother sealed her powers to keep her child safe. He pleads with the prince to correct his father's errors if he finds anything wrong with the actions of his father. At Kyoka's residence, Mio puts on the kimono her lord selected for her and prepares to head out. Yuri sees her and admires her new confidence, which is a result of the fondness between her and Kyoka. Minutes later, Mio arrives at the palace and awaits her lord at the gate. The moment Kyoka spots her, he runs in her direction, and she hands him an umbrella she brought with her to prevent the snow from falling on him. They gaze at each other lovingly with smiles on their faces. It soon begins to snow, and as they walk into their residence, Kyoka turns back and confesses his feelings for her, even though he's a soldier, and he might have to be away for battles most days. He proposes marriage to her, and Mio accepts his proposal gleefully before the lovebirds continue on their way into the main building.